Okay, so kind of looks like we've got enough people who've joined us, so I think that we can make a start. If you've missed anything in the last 90 seconds, my name is Grace Newman, and welcome to our webinar. This is the hidden costs of the 2025 minimum wage rises, presented by us at Citation Group. Now, before we dive into the presentation, I just want to cover off some general housekeeping. If you have a question during the webinar, please enter it into the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. There may be a couple of boxes there. One is chat, one is Q&A. Just to make sure that we can get there at the end, make sure you select that Q&A feature. We will answer all of the questions at the end, but please feel free to type them into the Q&A box throughout the presentation. There's no need to wait right until the very end. If you're anything like me, you might forget by then. We will aim to get through as many of your questions as possible today, but if we don't get to yours, please don't worry. A member of our team will be in touch after the webinar. And finally, yes, today's webinar is being recorded. For those of you that would like to access the recording, a link will be made available after the session has ended. So, today we will be discussing the 2025 minimum wage increase, how it might affect your business, the risks to look out for, and how Citation Group can help you navigate these changes. We've got quite a few people joining us on today's webinar, and given the high attendance, I'm guessing that many of you are here because you are interested in what these changes could mean for you and your business. And I'm really glad that you've joined us today, and by the time that you've finished the webinar, you should walk away with some really useful tips and practical advice. Today on our webinar will be presented by Tavini, and Tavini is a seasoned workplace relations consultant here at Citation HR. She helps our clients via the HR advice line, and if you do join Citation HR, we'll possibly want to be one of the advisors that you'll be speaking to on the other end of the phone. Tavini will be providing our clients with guidance and support on a range of employment matters, including the topic of which we're talking about today. A little about me, my name is Grace and I am the Head of Commercial Operations here at Citation Group. My team and I, we work with businesses just like yours. We can help you identify gaps around people management, safety, psychosocial practices, and find solutions that really drive efficiency gains, ensures that ongoing compliance, and ultimately offers you a peace of mind having us in your corner. Just in case you haven't attended one of our webinars in the past, I will go through a brief background of Citation Group. We have been around for over 30 years, working to help Aussie and Kiwi businesses provide complete workplace compliance solutions. And our mission is to help build better businesses to create a better world. From outsourced HR solutions and safety management systems to ISO certification or workplace law migration. And now payroll, time and attendance, and rostering too, a very recent addition to our family of services that hasn't quite made it into the infographic. But if after today's webinar you are wowed and you would like to understand how we can help and support you and or your business, I'd be more than happy to introduce you to one of our consultants who can explore your requirements and see if there's an opportunity for us to work together. So moving on to the reason that you're all here today. Today we are featuring Citation HR. Citation HR is a complete, compliant and cost-effective solution that helps businesses keep on top of their HR obligations, streamline people management processes, and increases operational efficiencies. Whether you're a small business or a large enterprise, everyone needs a solid HR partner that supports and provides reassurance. One of the great things about Citation HR is that we can provide tailored HR solutions for your business, and it is not a one-size-fits-all approach at all. So, for example, there's our 24/7 advice line where you can speak with one of our workplace relations consultants, just like Tavini, any time of the day. We have our HR software and a library of resources which we keep up to date with legislative changes. It is swept every 90 days. We have also built our own compliance training centre. We can deliver leadership training, we can support with crisis intervention, and we perform comprehensive audits when you first join us, and all of our advice is covered by our advice promise, something that you will not get with anyone else. We really do have a range of solutions to suit all of your needs. So that is it for me, and I would now like to hand over to Savini to discuss today's topic. I hope you enjoy the webinar, and I will see you a little later on.
Thank you, Grace, for that great introduction. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for taking the time to jump into today's important session on the minimum wage increase and best practice. We have a lot to cover today. Please see an outline on the screen now. In today's session, we will cover the national minimum wage increase and the minimum award wages, the risks where employers get it wrong, some real life examples, and how we at Citation HR can help you and your business. As part of the 2024-2025 annual wage review, the Fair Work Commission increased the national minimum wage and the minimum award wages from 1st July 2025 by 3.5%. This increase applied from the first full pay period starting on or after 1 July of this year. In reaching this decision, the Fair Work Commission considered economic and social concerns, including the cost of living, the strong labor market and continuing employment growth, inflation and real wage growth, reductions in interest rates, upcoming changes to the superannuation guarantee contribution rate, the need to achieve gender equality, and the economic conditions, both currently and those projected for the 2025-2026 financial year. The national minimum wage applies to employees who aren't covered by an award or an enterprise agreement. From 1st July 2025, the national minimum wage will increase by 3.5%. This means the national minimum wage is now $948 per week or $24.95 per hour. Most employees are covered by one award. Awards are legal documents that outline minimum pay rates and conditions of employment in an industry or occupation. The Commission has set a 3.5% increase to minimum wages under awards. An enterprise agreement sets out minimum employment conditions. It can apply to one business or a group of businesses. If you're covered by an enterprise agreement, the minimum wage increase may apply. This is because the base pay rate in an enterprise agreement can't be less than the base pay rate in the relevant modern award. In Australia, superannuation is mandatory. So from 1st July 2025, the superannuation guarantee increased from 11.5% to 12%.
Thanks, Tafini. This has come back to me, and thank you so much for the information that you've delivered so far. I'd just like a quick reminder that any questions you can use put them in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer these at the end of the webinar. There's a couple that have come through already, which is brilliant. Before we return to the presentation, I actually just wanted to take this time to share a special offer with you all. So if you're starting to think about how some of these changes might affect your business and you think that you might need some support, we are offering everybody on today's webinar a complimentary consultation call. This is the perfect opportunity to discuss your business's compliance, understand if you have any glaring risks, and we can share our knowledge with you. If you'd like to take advantage of this opportunity, you can scan the QR code that you can see on your screen right now, and you can fill in the form on the landing page. If you're on a mobile device, you can click through using the link in the chat below. I'll give you a minute just to complete that form, and then we will get back to the presentation. All right, that should give everyone enough time. I will get back to Davini.
Okay, thanks, Grace. Let's now turn to a critical area of employer responsibility, the risks that arise when the minimum wage increase is not implemented correctly. While many employers understand that a wage increase took effect from 1 July of this year, it is equally important to ensure that this change has been accurately reflected across your employment arrangements. This includes payroll systems and internal processes. Unfortunately, many businesses unintentionally fall short of compliance, and this can result in significant legal, financial, and reputational consequences. One of the most frequent issues we encounter is the application of the incorrect modern award or incorrect classification level within the applicable award. For example, an employee might be classified at level 1 under the General Retail Industry Award, despite consistently performing duties aligned with level 3 responsibilities. In other cases, the wrong award may be applied altogether. For instance, clerical staff in a manufacturing setting being incorrectly placed under the Clerk's Private Sector Award rather than the Manufacturing and Associated Industries and Occupations Award. These errors can lead to underpayment of wages and entitlements, and when identified, can result in substantial back pay liabilities and civil penalties under the Fair Work Act. Our recommendation is to undertake a classification review in line with role responsibilities and award descriptors, particularly during the annual wage update period. A second and often operational risk is the failure to update payroll systems prior to 1 July. This may occur due to oversight, miscommunication with third-party providers, or delays in implementing new rates. The result is employees continuing to be paid at the previous financial year's rate, sometimes for weeks or even for months before the error is detected. This creates an underpayment issue, which, if left unresolved, may attract penalties from the Fair Work Ombudsman. We recommend verifying that all payroll systems and software configurations reflect the updated rates by 1 July. If an error has occurred and employees have not received the correct rates from 1 July, this must be rectified as soon as possible. Employers often offering annualized salaries under modern awards may assume that a flat salary figure continues to satisfy award obligations. However, with an increase to minimum rates, that assumption can quickly become incorrect. Where annualized salaries are used, it is essential to ensure they remain sufficient to compensate for all award entitlements. This includes penalties, overtime, allowances, and ordinary hourly rates. If the new minimums exceed what has been factored into the salary, a compliance breach may occur. We recommend businesses conduct an annual reconciliation of all annualized salaries, ensuring that employees remain better off overall under the arrangement. Rates for juniors, apprentices, and trainees often follow percentage-based calculations under their respective awards. These categories are frequently overlooked during wage updates. For instance, junior employees who turn 18 or 19 partway through the year may become entitled to a higher percentage of the adult rate, and the increased minimum may further affect that calculation. We recommend regularly monitoring employee age milestones and progression through structured training to ensure rates remain compliant. Another area of concern is the continued use of employment contracts or pay guides that reference outdated rates. While many agreements include clauses that rates will align with the applicable award, it is poor practice and potentially misleading to issue documentation that reflects superseded figures. We recommend reviewing and updating employment contracts, onboarding packs, and internal pay guides each financial year to ensure accuracy and consistency. Some employers mistakenly believe that if they pay above award or have entered into an individual flexibility agreement, or an IFA for short, the annual wage increase is not relevant. However, under the Fair Work Act, employees covered by an award must remain better off overall under any alternative arrangement. If the award rate increases and the IFA or salary does not, this test may no longer be satisfied, even if the rate the employer receives appears generous. We recommend employers review all IFAs and above award salaries to ensure they continue to meet the BOOT, so the Better Off Overall test, following the increase. Lastly, there is the risk of internal miscommunication. While payroll or HR may be aware of the minimum wage increase, this information is not always cascaded to line managers or rostering staff. This can result in poor rostering decisions, cost overruns, and inconsistent application of rates or penalties. So, we recommend that you ensure all relevant managers and departments are informed of changes well in advance and that updated rate information is clearly documented and accessible. Let's have a look at some key examples of where the risks have come to life. Commonwealth Bank of Australia and CommSec. In 2024, following thorough investigation and prosecution, the Fair Work Ombudsman secured a record $10.34 million in penalties against the Commonwealth Bank of Australia and CommSec for serious contraventions of the Fair Work Act, including employees being underpaid to the tune of $16 million. Proceedings uncovered that both organizations knowingly and systematically committed serious contraventions of workplace laws. In the case of CBA and CONSEC, they failed to meet three key compliance standards. These were inadequate checks and safeguards. Both organizations failed to use sufficient checks and safeguards to ensure the lawful implementation of enterprise agreements and individual flexibility arrangements. Lack of reconciliation systems. The companies did not implement systems for reconciliations and top up payments to ensure employees received lawful minimum entitlements. Misrepresentation of information to workers. There were instances where workers were misled into believing they were better off under the individual flexibility agreements. At the end of the day, there is no gray area when it comes to compliance, and even though both organizations self-reported to and cooperated fully with the Fair Work Ombudsman, they still received record-breaking fines. Our second example involves 85 Degrees Coffee Australia. From the northwest to the southwest, 85 Degrees operated 8 franchise outlets across Sydney and underpaid employees ranging from $239 to $15,198 between 1st January and 31st December of 2019. After conducting a proactive audit, the Fair Work Ombudsman uncovered that in addition to being underpaid minimum wages, the workers were also denied overtime entitlements and casual loadings, penalty rates for weekends, public holidays, and evening work, laundry allowances under the General Retail Industry Award, and annual leave entitlements under the National Employment Standards. Such contraventions resulted in the federal court imposing $1.44 million in penalties against the franchisor. This $1 million penalty is the third highest ever secured by the Fair Work Ombudsman. As we've seen today, staying compliant with the minimum wage increases is not just about updating a number in your payroll system. It's about understanding your obligations under the Fair Work Act, interpreting the relevant modern award, and ensuring every part of your employment framework, from contracts to rosters, aligns with current legal requirements. This is where our team can provide practical, tailored support. We offer a range of services to help you implement these changes with confidence and a peace of mind. These include award and classification reviews, We'll work with you to ensure your employees are correctly classified under the relevant modern award. This is a crucial step in preventing underpayments. Compliance audits. Our consultants can review your current pay rates, salary arrangements, and allowances to identify any potential compliance gaps before they become costly problems for you and your business. Customized advice and support. Whether you need clarification on how the new wage increase affects your business or guidance on complex scenarios like annualized salaries or flexibility arrangements, our advisors are here to assist. Employment contracts and HR documents. We can review and update employment contracts, pay guides, and onboarding documents to reflect the latest rates and obligations, protecting both your business and your people. So, why should you work with us? Working with our team means gaining access to specialized knowledge of workplace laws and award frameworks, timely, practical advice tailored to you, your industry, and business model. Peace of mind that your compliance risk is being proactively managed. We partner with businesses across a range of sectors, from hospitality to healthcare, retail, manufacturing, and professional services. And we understand the nuances of both simple and complex employment arrangements. If you're unsure where to start or want support implementing the 1 July changes across your business, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Our goal is to help you not only meet your obligations, but to manage your workforce confidently, efficiently, and compliantly. So we've covered a lot in today's webinar, so I just want to briefly summarize the key points. From 1 July of this year, the national minimum wage and award minimum rates increased by 3.5%. From 1 July, the minimum superannuation guarantee also increased to 12%. Employers should undertake reviews of payroll, contracts, agreements, and rates to ensure compliance moving forward. Proactive compliance is always more cost effective than reactive remediation. Ensuring that your business is fully aligned with the 1 July minimum wage increase will help protect your organization from legal exposure, maintain employee trust, and also uphold your obligations under the Fair Work Act.
Thanks so much, Tavini. As someone that's come from the Citation Group in the UK and working within the UK legislation, I can personally attest to the complexities in Australia. I think it carries some of the most complex payment legislation in the world. And, you know, with the criminalisation of underpayments and the volume of successful underpayment claims, I think there's probably never a more important time to become a little bit more clued up about these, you know, the wage increases, you know, having a bit of a review, making sure that your payroll is set up, making sure that the rules are correct, and making sure that, you know, we are paying employees at the correct rates and in line with the awards. But look, before we dive into all of those questions that I can see coming through, I just wanted to take you another moment to remind you of our offer of that complimentary workplace compliance consultation. So look, we'd love to have a chat about your workplace compliance challenges. They are different for all types of businesses in all types of sectors, and trust me, we have heard and seen it all. So scan that QR code on the screen, schedule that complimentary call in with us. And again, as a reminder, if you are on your mobile, the link is in the chat. So if you jump into the chat, you should be able to click on the link and fill in the form from there. Again, I'll just give you another 30 seconds to complete that form, and then we'll move on to some of those questions. All right, that should have given everybody some time, and there's quite a few questions that have come in, and I guess rightly so, fraught with risks and hurdles for everybody to jump through, or jump over rather, with hurdles. But look, let's jump right in. So one of the questions I've got here, this one's an anonymous attendee. But it says we pay above award rates. Do we still need to review our wages following the increase?
Yes, you absolutely must review your wages, even if you pay above award, because you need to ensure that your employees are still better off overall than they would be under the applicable award. This is particularly important where you rely on arrangements such as an IFA, so an individual flexibility arrangement, or perhaps an annualized salary arrangement. No above award payments do not exempt you as an employer from ensuring compliance with the minimum entitlements.
Okay, and I guess the sort of takeaway from that is let's not make any assumptions. And I
Mhm.
know that we'd referenced a couple of cases of some severe penalties, particularly looking at the Combank, but
Mhm.
we see, on a daily basis, we're subscribed to kind of like the Fair Work updates, and there are so many claims, successful claims, being awarded, and they are often from small to medium-sized businesses, just like yours. So, look, it's not just those larger businesses that are receiving those penalties, but is absolutely filtering down through to businesses as small as sort of 5 to 10 employees. So, it's definitely something to be mindful of and have a review of. All right, question number two. I've got Mark here. Mark says, do I need to update employment contracts every year to reflect the new minimum wage?
Hmm. Not necessarily. If your contracts refer to rates in accordance with the relevant award or has something about as adjusted from time to time or similar wording of that nature, that may automatically reflect the increase. But we do consider it to be best practice for you to review all employment contracts annually anyway, just to ensure that the correct rates are applied and you can avoid confusion or disputes related to remuneration if you are just regularly monitoring and updating your contracts.
Amazing. And I guess, we've just gone through our internal pay reviews and best practice might be, you summarize it in a letter and you have that, that acceptance through that process. So you've had the consultation and then you've got the acceptance as
Mm.
well. Is that right?
Yes, yes, you're spot on, Grace.
Awesome. Okay, Sue, for question three, what should we do if we discover that we've been underpaying staff due to a payroll error? That's probably a really good one.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. So the first thing you should be doing is calculating the extent of that underpayment and then rectifying it as soon as you possibly can. We also recommend that you are very open and transparent with the affected employees and ensure that your back payments are made in full, including any associated penalties or loadings that might become applicable. We also recommend that you adequately document the error and the correction process the business followed, and any steps that the company has implemented to prevent such a reoccurrence.
Amazing. And obviously, there's the back payments to consider, but are there considerations when it comes to penalties, particularly if an organisation has acknowledged that there is an error and that they have underpaid? So that the Fair Work penalties, would that be reduced possibly through this process?
Well, as we went through the case studies before, even though some businesses self-report underpayments and the like, it still is going to carry a penalty by the Fair Work Ombudsman. But yeah, potentially they might consider that because it was an honest mistake, it's just going to be some sort of financial penalty instead because um, at the beginning of this year, actually, underpayment claims became a criminal liability for employers. So employers who were knowingly making underpayments were actually undergoing some sort of criminal process as well, in addition to this civil penalties associated with a normal underpayment claim.
Makes sense. Thank you. And this is actually a really nice follow on. So we've got another one that's just a couple down, another anonymous attendee. But again, sort of on the payroll theme, they've asked that we use an outsourced payroll provider. So who's responsible if something goes wrong?
Hmm. So while payroll providers are often responsible for the actual implementation of the system, the legal responsibility will actually still remain with your business as the employer. So if your payroll provider fails to apply an updated rate, your business, not the provider, will still be liable for any breaches in terms of underpayment. It's super crucial that you, as the business, as the employer, verify that all payroll updates have been implemented correctly, regardless of whether or not that payroll system is managed internally or externally. It's why we always recommend that in approaching 1 July of each year, that you just double check that your payroll provider has made the necessary updates.
Yeah, and a lot of those updates are not automatic, so it's definitely something that needs to be instructed.
Mhm.
Payroll providers. Lovely. Okay, let's go through a couple more questions that we've got here. What's the best way to confirm if we're using the correct award and classification?
Hmm. Well, you should start by reviewing the employee's duties and responsibilities against the classification in the relevant modern award. Essentially, just match the job description you've got to what's contained within the award classifications. Generally, you can find the classification structure in the schedules towards the end of the award. Tends to be Schedule A, but don't quote me on that because it does change from award to award. Um, when there is uncertainty in classifications, particularly where roles or are very hybrid in nature, or they've got overlapping duties, or perhaps the employer and the company spans across multiple awards, we do generally recommend that you seek professional guidance because misclassification is kind of the leading cause of underpayment disputes in compliance. It kind of stems the issues.
Amazing. And I guess with that in mind, that's absolutely something, guys, that we can support with. Even things like payroll audits, health checks, pay rate reviews, as well as sort of those overall compliance audits. That's definitely a specialty of ours, particularly as I referenced right at the beginning of this call, with the latest addition to our family of services with the payroll services. Okie dokie. Question 6. Are we required to notify employees of the wage increase? And I guess that kind of comes back to when I was referencing our internal process. But what are the legal obligations there?
Mm. Yeah, exactly, Grace. I think you touched on this before in terms of the letter and communicating that to employees. But there isn't actually a legal obligation to provide formal notice for minimum wage increases, unless, of course, if the employee's contract specifically requires the employer to do so. We do consider it good practice to inform employees in writing. So, as Grace said, it could be some sort of letter notifying the employee of an updated increase to their wages, or it could be something as simple as an email or just an annotation on maybe a payslip when the rate has been adjusted, just so that there is that transparency between the employee and the employer. And you can just confirm that the business has maintained compliance and the employees are aware of that compliance as well.
Yeah, amazing. And look, I mean, myself and as a people on this call, as people managers and people leaders, that conversation can be often quite a pleasant one. So it's a really nice touch point to have. I know that particularly when I was delivering the letters to my team, everyone's always super chuffed to have a conversation about a little bump in their pay packet every month. All right, I'll just come to this one before we wrap up. Um, how often should we be conducting a wage and compliance audit within our organizations?
Mm. At a minimum, I'd say audits should be conducted annually in line with the 1 July minimum wage increase. But I think that is really dependent on the size of your workforce. So if you have a large workforce, your business spans across multiple awards, or maybe you've got a high turnover rate, it might be beneficial to actually have more frequent reviews than just meeting the annual requirements, particularly if your business is going through some sort of internal restructure, maybe employees' roles are changing in duties and scope, or perhaps even just in line with each Fair Work update. And look, there happens to be quite a lot.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. This is probably a shorter and sweeter webinar than we typically run, not maxing out on that hour that we've allotted for everybody. So we might allow you to go out and get some lunch and see some sunshine. But thank you so much for joining us for this presentation. And I would like to personally thank Tavini, who has also stepped in at last minute. So your invite may have said Amelia, and unfortunately she's sick today. So thank you so much, Tavini, for sharing your expertise and your knowledge on this subject in particular. As I mentioned at the start, we will be sending a follow-up email, so don't forget to look out in your inboxes for that later on today. And again, that will include a link to our recording, so stay tuned for that email. If you've got other people in your business that really do need to be across this, feel free to share that. And again, if they do have any questions, they can also get in touch with us. As always, any questions or you'd like to schedule a chat, jump in the link, or you've already submitted the form through the QR code. Our contact information is available on this slide here, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks ever so much, everybody.